I'd just like to assume that perhaps most of the people here would be aware of some of the mega projects which are taking place on the continent. I mean, some which have been listed, Bujugali and Seacom. But I just want perhaps maybe focus maybe this sort of like meeting with respect to maybe from the issue of time point of view. And I want people maybe just to look at where Africa is today with its projects vis-a-vis where it's going and what we see happening in that period, and then the issue of time, with respect to especially mega projects and the time it takes and all those issues, and what Africa needs, as a result of that. I mean, to make an example, I mean, when I think when South, when you worked on the Seacom project, at the time there was only the set 3 which was in place. And that was about 4 years ago. And I think in 2006, all that was said was that this is a pipe dream. None of these projects will happen. I think today you have 3 projects, like 3 undersea cables, which are happening. That is like 4 years down the line. And I mean, it's amazing what we think those undersea cables will do for the continent and the other businesses which will flow from that. Another sort of like, example we want to look at with regards to projects, and also thereby I'm trying to get you to think about the whole issue of the long-term capital needs of the continent as opposed to debt, which is getting equity returns, as you mentioned. If you look at the whole issue of urbanization and the issue and the growth of the cities, and another example we make is if you looked at 5 years ago, how many flights you had between perhaps Johannesburg and Ghana, perhaps maybe Ghana and Accra, and I mean Nairobi, or Johannesburg and Nairobi. I can assure you that with most of those, the traffic has almost tripled, more than that. I mean, whereas 5 years ago there was a flight, perhaps 2 flights a week, now you have a flight every day. And in some instances you have 3 flights a day. So that's the type of time period we talk about, that these sort of like, investments in undersea times cables needs, in ports, airports, the type of sort of like, long-term capital which we are seeing happening. But we think also like that type of like time frame is becoming very encouraging if we look at what's happening on the continent. I think in the last month, I mean, we've heard of Walmart taking over, a South African entity as its base to like, target the whole of the African continent. And I think that's a $4.2 billion transaction. So we say take that and then like, look at it 5 years forward. What does the market start looking like? What does it start doing to the property sector, just on the retail side? If you look at, we also seen a transaction by Nippon NTT and with Data, which is also about close to $4 billion transaction. So we're seeing all these sort of like, and we take those types of projects, which are like, I mean, though some of them would be on perhaps just the pure acquisition side, but these we believe that they keep on generating and spewing and lead to the whole growth of the mega-sized type projects which we're starting to see on the continent, which are delivering very good, prospects. But in terms of that, what we also are seeing, and which is very encouraging, is the participation by African pension funds or African, capital in African projects. And this starts sort of like, giving them access to, and starts enabling some of these projects happening. So we, in that sense, we were very upbeat. And I think also in time, perhaps maybe this should lead to a maybe repricing of some of the debt in the market, which gets very high sort of like returns. So I mean, we're seeing a lot of these projects coming in place, where we see a lot of activity taking place in the next couple of years. Is we see a lot of big follow-on business as a result of the undersea cables. We see a lot of business on the toll roads, on the transport side of business, on the airports. side of business as a result of that. We're involved in projects in that sector. We're seeing, very, promising some rail projects. We're very much aware that some of these have been sort of like on the books for quite a while. But as I again refer back to my first sort of like thing, if you look at the issue of time and how much it takes on these 5 years sort of like periods, I think like, if you look at, we're seeing a whole lot of projects coming on. We're very upbeat about this. I think in 2006, I think one of the, Washington-based DFIs said to us, like, there isn't a need for a $1 billion fund for African projects. There wouldn't be enough uptake. But I think today we're glad that we're also seeing them coming to the market with a $1 billion fund, and thereby increasing that sort of like equity sort of like, appetite and addressing that, and targeting even not just now African capital, but also like, outside capital. But so in that sense, that's what we're seeing. I haven't referred to any specific projects, but we're seeing those, and we are involved in some of those. If at a later stage anybody wants to discuss, we can go into individual projects.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.